Now, we come to one of the highlights of our commencement ceremony, the student addresses. Each year, members of the graduating class submit applications to be given the honor of addressing their classmates and guests. The Commencement Speakers Committee is tasked with selecting student speakers from among many worthy applicants. It is always a very difficult choice to make, and this year was no exception. I'm happy to introduce this year's committee choices. First, for the day division, Elizabeth Dantonio. Elizabeth received a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy and Art History from the College of Charleston in 2010. She served as a campus advocate and did her law school clinical work in the Forensic Science Cold Case Unit at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Starting in September, Elizabeth will be a judicial law clerk for the Honorable Joan M. Azraq in the Eastern District Court of New York. And she is clerking for someone who is an alumna of New York Law School. Elizabeth would like to thank her family and Professor Blecker for their support and guidance throughout her time in law school. Elizabeth?
Mayor Bloomberg, Board of Trustees, Dean Crowell, faculty, and my fellow graduates. A few years ago, we all decided to come to law school in the greatest city in the world. A city that is hometown to 4 out of 9 US Supreme Court justices. A city led by a progressive mayor willing to tackle all of our problems, no matter what size. A few years ago, I bet many of you were like me. Anything was possible. I'd make law review, be president of the moot court team, I'd lead the Student Bar Association. And after law school, I'd go on to make partners someday in a white shoe law firm with teams of paralegals, black town cars, and expense accounts. I'd be debt-free in no time. Despite my grand ambitions, my first semester of law school was a disaster. Law review? Not exactly. I was in the bottom 25% of my class and headed for principles of legal analysis. For all of you in the top 75% of the class, PLA is essentially law school 101 for us academic late bloomers. Maybe I'd made a mistake in going to law school. Maybe I wasn't meant to be a lawyer. Maybe I should have done something easier, like ice road trucking or Alaskan king crab fishing, something, just not lawyering. One semester down, and I already felt like giving up. I know this story is not just mine. Everyone here today graduating has at one point in their law school career felt like giving up. So, if for nothing else, class of 2013, congratulations for finishing what you started. After my less than glorious first semester, my dad told me about his first job in law school. He wasn't the law clerk with the highest GPA or the lowest golf handicap, but he arrived early and he stayed late, and he always had a pot of coffee waiting for the partners when they arrived to the office in the morning. My dad's lesson was simple. Be the first to work and the last to leave, and don't be too good to make coffee. If I couldn't outsmart the competition, I guess I'd have to outwork them. So, after spending what felt like days on the Career Services website, I finally found a firm that would hire me without seeing my transcript. It wasn't easy. In addition to going to school, I worked sometimes 10, 20, 30 hours a week. My first glimpse of litigation hell came when opposing counsel dumped a motion on us on Christmas Eve. For the first time, and I'm sure not the last, I spent my holiday hunched over my laptop, scouring LexisNexis. Academically, something finally clicked. Thanks to PLA, thank you, Professor Franklin, I was now making Dean's List. That year, I skipped spring break. Instead, I spent the week polishing up my internship application to the Manhattan DA. I personally delivered it on the first day, in the first hour, they accepted applications. I even used the motion I'd slaved on over the holiday as my writing sample. And guess what? I got the internship. When I arrived as an intern at the DA, I did what New York Law School taught us all how to do. I worked hard. I worked really hard. I interned full-time and took all my classes at night. Let's just say I have a whole new respect for you evening students. It ain't easy. I barely survived for one semester. I have no idea how all of you made it through 8. During my internship, I mastered the Xerox machine. I took lunch orders. I pushed the evidence cart. But I also worked on some incredible cases. I assisted on a cold case homicide where a guy carved up his wife with a machete and buried her head in Riverside Park. I second sat a gunpoint robbery trial. I pored over crime scene photos for a 5-time death row inmate who newspapers dubbed the dating game killer. I even sat in court the day he finally pled guilty to murdering 2 young women in New York over 40 years ago. By the end of my internship, I was exhausted, but I was elated. I'd found a job that didn't feel like work. When I applied for federal clerkships, everyone cautioned me. They only hire from the Ivy League. But one thing is certain, you never get the job you don't apply for. So, 350 applications and 1 interview later, I'm thrilled to be clerking for Judge Azraq in the Eastern District. Professor Robert Blecker begins his first-year criminal law course by highlighting a passage from a Mark Twain story. It's about a riverboat captain who, after so many years of captaining his vessel, only sees the tides, the current, the wind direction. Preoccupied with technicalities, the captain no longer appreciates the beauty of the river. Professor Blecker tells this story to remind his first-year law students not to lose sight of the beauty in the world amidst the technicalities of the law. Although we are no longer 1Ls, we can take away a great deal from this story here today. We've heard statistics about the job market and the ominous projections about the legal profession from pundits. Yet we must step back and appreciate the bigger picture. From this day forward, we are law school graduates, New York law school graduates. Look at law school like the first mile of a marathon. New York Law School got us loose and limber. We are more than prepared to run our race. Even if this economy has not given you the start you imagined, in this profession, success is not measured by the first 10 yards or the first 2 years, but by where you finish. And more importantly, most importantly, the way in which you run the race. In life, we all do things we regret. Having that chocolate glazed donut, or that extra glass of Chardonnay, pressing send on that late night text message. But the thing we'll never regret is working hard. And as Mayor Bloomberg has said, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And we are lucky. We are very, very lucky. In addition to having the education to succeed as lawyers, we are in the perfect place to start our journey. New York City, where the impossible happens, where little girls in the South Bronx grow up to be U.S. Supreme Court justices. So, class of 2013, don't ever stop believing in yourself or the value of your legal education. Don't stop working hard. Don't ever be too good to make coffee or Xerox or push the evidence cart. Pick your mentors wisely and always be the first to work and the last to leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that wonderful speech. Our evening division speaker, Kiru Gichuru, was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. He received his undergraduate degree from the New York City College of Technology at CUNY and his master's degree from Brooklyn College. While working as an undergraduate student, Kiru became active in his union, Local 1904, as a shop steward and now serves as its vice president. As an evening student, Kiru pursued his interests in labor law and government by interning at DC 37, Gladstein, Reith, and McGinnis, and the New York City Council. Kiru was president of the Black Law Students Association, served as a regional editor with the Global Human Rights Bulletin, and served as a mentor for New York Law School's street law program. As an affiliate with the Justice Action Center, Kiru is motivated by workers' rights, civil and human rights, and government policy, and he will begin his legal career this fall as a public interest fellow for the Social Services Employees Union. Kiru?
Thank you, Dean Crowell. Mayor Bloomberg, Board of Trustees, distinguished faculty and staff, honored guests, friends and family, and I am especially honored to thank members of my family, some of whom have traveled all the way from Kenya to celebrate this great day with us. So if there's any doubt, the village is in the city, you know. And to the graduating class of 2013, it is a great honor to be able to address you on this great day. Now, it's been a long and difficult journey for all of us. For students who had to work, that journey was a little longer and yes, more challenging, where many of us had to do our best to strike that delicate balance between work, school, and family. Yet despite those challenges, I have no doubt that we can all point to fellow classmates who helped us get through those tough times that law school is notorious for. There's an African word for that spirit of togetherness, Ubuntu, whose literal translation is, I am because you are. That is, one's humanity is derived from how one interacts with others, which conveys a strong sense of caring for one another. Ubuntu is synonymous with the New York Law School community. I experienced Ubuntu through my fellow evening students. We all remember that first year, that mix of hesitation and excitement to the daunting challenge that stretched before us. The classroom competition was fierce, dizzying, and at times frightening. In the midst of it all, I was working 2 jobs, struggling to make ends meet. And by the end of the first month, I was overwhelmed by the demands of both work and school. I was barely making the rent and desperately looking for overtime hours to cover the rest of my bills. By then, those clouds of doubt had loomed comfortably overhead, and I was reluctantly accepting the fact that I may not be able to make it, let alone maintain that tradition of excellence that NYLS prides itself on. The thought of quitting was gradually settling in, and possibility of trying a different career was growing more attractive each day. But those challenges and feelings were not unique to me. Whether it was a single working mother raising 2 children on her own, the paralegal, the contract administrator, the New York City cop, the small business owner, the journalist, the account executive, or the knowledge management clerk. Each one of you was confronting similar or different sets of challenges and obstacles. Yet it was those very challenges that brought us together. When I reached out for help, you responded. You answered my phone calls at ridiculously late hours. You made time for me, even when your busy schedules questioned the wisdom of doing so. And you scanned and emailed endless pages just to make sure I had the material I needed to improve my understanding of torts. And when I could, I did the same for you. So in sum, I stand before you today because of you. And for that, not only am I honored to be graduating with one of the best students in the country and across the nation, I am grateful to be delivering this commencement address on your behalf. See, law school challenges not just to be the best students that we could be, but to be our brothers and sisters' keeper. From the first moment we opened our casebooks, we knew it would take more than our individual resolve to succeed. So despite the fierce classroom competition, we chose to go against our own self-interest, going it alone and succeeding alone, instead choosing to help one another in the face of different adversities. So whether it was a colleague whose supervisor refused to be accommodating, or when we fell sick, or the sudden death or sickness of a loved one forced a prolonged absence, we demonstrated an impatient generosity to share class notes, outlines, and even sacrifice time to meet with the affected student to explain complex legal rules, all in the spirit of togetherness. So it is that sense of community, that unyielding commitment to bring the best out of each other that defines not just who we are, but what NYLS graduates promise the world. Now, mine is not a naive optimism. I recognize that we graduate at a time when the prospect for immediate jobs in the legal profession is still tough. But NYLS has helped us develop not just the professional values and skills of excellence and perseverance, but most of all of community. So just as we relied on each other to get through law school, we shall continue to rely on each other to confront the challenges ahead and build our careers. Through it all, let us remember that even as we face the world as it is, that doesn't mean accepting the status quo. For to live and embody NYLS's creed, learn law and take action, it means not just being the finest lawyers in our respective fields, but using our talents and expertise to improve the world we live in. See, I strongly believe that while the education and training we graduate with today does guarantee us some measure of success in life, but that it also revolutionizes our hearts and our minds, placing us in a unique position to reshape the world to accurately reflect our common humanity, a belief in our individual responsibility to our fellow brothers and sisters. The aspiration to these universal ideals and principles doesn't just bind us as NYLS students or New York City residents, but as members of the larger global community. For me, I have been fortunate enough to be granted a Public Interest Award that will allow me to utilize my education, training, and passion for union-side labor law at the Social Service Employees Union. So whether, thank you. So whether you find your passion and expertise in financial services, government, litigation, entertainment, sports, as a community lawyer, or whether it's hanging your own shingle, let the eloquence of our collective action demonstrate that we remain committed to being the change we want to see in the world. Ubuntu. Congratulations to the class of 2013. Let's go change the world. One more thing. One more thing. I would be remiss if I didn't thank one special person who's also responsible for me being here today. She has been my rock. She refused me to quit when things just got too tough. So, Mom, we did it. I love you.